All right, thank you everybody for taking the time to join us today for this webinar about Pre-Built ML Hub, where we'll be just kind of giving you a quick tour through the software. And so like we said, the sort of the title is you've heard about it, come and see it. So imagine you've heard different things about Pre-Built ML Hub. Maybe you poked around a little bit on your own system as it was rolled out here the last few weeks. But just wanted to take some time and just show you what Pre-Built ML Hub is and how that could possibly be a help to your business. So hopefully we get some of those questions answered for you as we go along. And I'm just going to kind of kick this off with just a little poll right here at the beginning. So you should be seeing that on your screen now. So just a quick question of what are you interested in Hub for doing for you and your team? So you can select multiple answers if you like, but just kind of interested to know from what perspective you're coming from as you are looking at opportunities for organizing your work. So maybe just glance through those. If you want, give a few answers and submit those answers. I'll give you a few more seconds here to reply. But that just helps us understand better of what some of the needs are out there. So I'll just give you a few more moments there to finish that up, and then we'll hop into the rest of the demonstration. Thank you for those responses, and I'll kind of close this off here in just a second. So if you're just finishing up, then go ahead and hit submit, and we'll go from there. All right, so when it comes to Pre-Built ML Hub, what is Hub and what is it that we're trying to solve, or what problem are we trying to address in general? So at its core, if you have a business of some sort, it probably involves some kind of estimator. But then obviously that can get a little bit more complex than just a single estimator and a simple job, one job to do. You have maybe multiple salespeople on your team who are out roving looking for businesses, who are then in turn sending back more plans in. You maybe even have multiple estimators on your team that you're trying to coordinate between. And so like we said, we've got multiple plans coming in, multiple projects, multiple salespeople, multiple estimators. Oh, and maybe even a few really consistent outside guys. Like they're your customers as far as you're concerned, but they do so much work with you that you have a very close relationship with. You'd like to kind of at least give them a little bit of a loop in, easier to have communication with you. And so then you add to that all these lines of communication between the projects and the salespeople and the estimators, and you look at that chart right there, and it's like that's actually pretty simple when it comes down to it. It's not too much going on there, but it's kind of crazy and bug-eyed. So how can we solve that? How can we make that less confusing? And so that's the goal of Hub, is something that's a little bit more like this, where you have Pre-Built ML Hub kind of at the center, and it is handling all the coordination of all those projects, the communications about those particular projects between all those estimators, managers, salespeople, outside sales guys, all those people, and having a central location to keep all of that and keeping your business running smoothly. So that's the goal that we're after, or in a sense, the problem we're trying to solve when it comes to Pre-Built ML Hub. So Pre-Built ML Hub is an add-on to our existing software. So our core software solution that we've been providing for years for estimating, for doing takeoff work, Pre-Built ML, or Estima, as the case may be for some of you. And we've added on this new solution here that you've probably seen up, or hopefully have seen pop up on your screen as options for you to be involved in. So when it comes to Hub, the first thing to do is to set up an account like what you're seeing right here. It says welcome, and just very straightforward stuff that you're used to in other platforms. But I could enter an email address, and I could click next, and it's going to tell me if I want to fill out or create a new account. In this case, since I already have an account, I'm going to just log in. So I'll just log in here. Just have to log in one more time. There we go. So there we go. Now we're inside of Pre-Built ML Hub in my particular account screen. So there's a few different sides to Pre-Built ML, or a couple different dimensions. One is over here on the left-hand side, and this is our project list. So as I mentioned before, the goal of Hub is to allow you to ultimately organize your projects and keep everything straight where it belongs. So we've got our project list. Over in the project list, like again, you're used to in other locations, there's ways that you can sort and filter this. Up in the upper right-hand corner, I can click on filter projects, so I can choose to see things that are just in progress. So I'll just see, the logged in progress and revision ones, leave the completed ones out to make my list more effective. Just my projects that are assigned to me, or I can see all projects. So different options that are available there. And then also when it comes to sorting projects, you can sort things in multiple different ways: status, salesperson, project name. This is at the top. This is a newer one that we've added more recently, and this is for notifications. So if you've received some new communication about a particular project, like somebody sent you a chat message on it, then it will float and sort to the top of your list so you can see that quickly. And then, of course, we have a search functionality here. So if you had that racetrack project that you're working on, you could quickly search in and find that specific project at hand. And that search field is going to hit a bunch of different areas like the project name, the client name, the estimator, sales, and so on. So lots of flexibility in being able to get around in your project list and see what's going on, and also filter away the stuff that just isn't important to you in your particular workflow. So you have your project list over here on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side would be all the information about that specific project. So, and that's broken up into three main sections. First is this information tab. I'm going to come back down here to, let's see, let's go to this project here, Karen's Kitchen Project. So I've got the name of the project, who this client is, in this case, the Smith Builders. We can see the receive date of when this project came into us to actually be accomplished, and then the due date, which it can be, it's blank by default, but you can add one in, or the salesperson who's requesting it could add one in to indicate how soon it needs to be done. And then there's the status that is in. So you can see currently this one job is actually in progress. So it's been started, the job has been started, but it's still, the material list hasn't been completed yet. Then you can assign an estimator, a salesperson, and some additional contacts to that job. So now we know who is associated with them. Estimator and salesperson, that's pretty obvious. Additional contacts, that could be like a manager who's wanting to follow along, or maybe an external contact, and we'll talk more about those roles here in a little bit. And then we've got a little note section, of course, and we'll talk more about these buttons in a minute. So anyways, general information about the project all stored there. And then here on the next slide over is the files section. These are the output files for the project. So when you have completed your job, you've completed the material list, you have the ability to post those files to PrebuiltML Hub so that they can be accessed. Now, here's a good place to stop and pause for a moment and just reiterate what it is that Hub is. Hub is a cloud-based solution. So that means anything that is being communicated here can be accessed from multiple different locations, multiple different devices. We do have an app, and we'll show you that here in a minute, that is a companion to this as well. So you can have access to this from multiple different avenues and locations, and lots of flexibility there. So I have my files there that I can post and be able to pull up as needed. And then finally over here is the conversation section, or the chat section of the project. So everything in the PrebuiltML Hub is centered around the project. So if you're trying to find communication about a specific job, then all you need to do is find that particular project, and you can come to the information, the files, or here to this conversation section, and you can find what communications have been sent about it, review the history, and so on, or maybe what revisions have been requested, any communications that were surrounding it in particular. So those are the three primary areas of Hub. So now let's take a quick look at, so what would it look like? What does the general project flow look like as you work in Hub? Up in the upper left-hand corner here, we have this Create Project button. This allows us to, as you would expect, to create a project or to generate one, log one into the system. I'm going to click the plus button here, and the Create Project screen shows up. We'll give this one a name. Let's see, we'll call this Judah's Home Residence. And we'll have Line Builders. And then over under salesperson, we can pick a salesperson from our team who maybe is responsible for this. We could pick no salesperson. And here's another great place to just interject for a moment. As we go through this, you may see more things that you say, well, I wouldn't use that. Like we don't have salespeople. It's just I'm just working by myself, or I don't really need for what I'm trying to use Hub for, then I don't need it. And that's just fine. We've tried to build Hub in a way that it's flexible for you to use depending on what your needs are. So if you see a feature that's like, well, that doesn't relate to me, well, then fine, just don't use it. And instead just use the portion of the software that is effective for you. So in this case, if we had no salesperson or we just don't use salespeople, we could assign that as well. Also, to make the flow easy, if you've got a new salesperson that's on your team or one that you just haven't onboarded yet, so he's not in your list, you can easily come to the plus button here, type in their name, their email address, and then you can add them as part of the team, and they will get an invitation, and they will be sent a download link for the app, and they can join in and be part of your team. But in this case, I'll just pick my salesperson account, and I'll click create. And now that job gets created here at the top of my list. I can see over here if I wanted to select a due date, I can. But now most notably, you can see here that I have a start project button. So instead of it leaving, trying to have people remember to change the status of the job, instead we just provided action items or action buttons to be taken for a particular project as it goes through the system. So since this project is assigned to me, you can see here is my estimator account, I have the start project button. Now, if this was taken away from me and was assigned to somebody else, now I don't have the start project button anymore because it's not important for me to have. It's not my job, it's not my responsibility, so I don't need to have that. But if I set it back to myself, I've got the start project button and I can actually take and start this job, which we'll do. I'll click start project. And for those of you who are regular users of PrebuiltML or Estima, you know about the Start Project screen. If you don't, I encourage you to get familiar with it. It's a very useful tool that we've added in the last year. But in the Start Project screen, now it populates with the project information, Judah's home residence. It allows me to pick my save location, my template file, and so on. And I'll go from there and I'll hit Start Project. Now, as a reminder, for those of you who have heard, or maybe it's information for those of you who haven't, right now we're just saving projects locally, but another big step that we're planning to introduce coming up very soon in Hub is the ability for you to have cloud storage for your projects, meaning you can store not just your output files, but your actual job file in the cloud so that you can access it from multiple different locations. So this would be for if you had multiple people on a team in different offices, different locations, you wanted them to be able to download them and look at them from different spots. Or if you just work from home sometimes and you wanted to be able to, instead of having to put it on a thumb drive and take it home and manage all that, you could just have it stored in the cloud so that you can pull it down from either location. So just be aware that that is coming. So here we've opened up PrebuiltML to do the actual job estimate. Notice Judah's home residence is filled in here. We're not going to spend a ton of time in here because obviously most of you are familiar with everything that goes on in here, the ability to build your material list. But let's just add just a little bit of something in here, just so that we have something in our material list. So we'll just add some exterior wall in, some garage wall, and maybe some headers. Okay, and we'll call that good enough. So then what I'm able to do is once I have my material list built out, I can come over here to the reports tab, for example, and let's view that material list. And since this job is connected to Hub, you can see in the lower right-hand corner here of the PrebuiltML X file, it says that it's connected to Hub. And I also have this little Hub button up here in the left-hand corner of the report tab. If I click on that, I can choose to export this report to Hub. So now instead of just printing it out someplace, I can actually have it post to Hub. So maybe I want it to be in Excel format. I'll call this my QL list. And maybe I actually want it in the PDF version as well. So I'll enter that also. And now if I was to click back over here to Hub for a moment, well, yeah, if I was then I'm going to go over here to our file section. You can see there are those two files that I just posted for this Judah's project, Judah's home residence. Now coming back over here to PrebuiltML just for a minute here to finish up an idea. I'm going to close this. So that ability to export to Hub is also true for framing layouts. And then for those of you who use Publish, the Publish tab, then you can also set your Publish tab to also export those things directly to Hub. And you could also have a mix of items. So I could either set my default location to be to Hub, and all my stuff is going to go to that Hub location. Or I could also just use my local drive or a specific location like I've done in the past. But maybe I just want 1 or 2 reports to go to Hub while some things still go locally. So I could, turn this one on, but then I come over here and say, well, I want just this report to go to Hub. Okay, so again, lots of flexibility in how Hub interacts with your current workflow and makes it easy to integrate to what you're already doing. So in this case, I'm just going to choose Publish to Hub, and those reports will get published out. We shall find those over there in a minute. Finally, this is a direct connection back over to Hub. If I wanted to change this to Judah's home residence, maybe I just want this to say Judah's home project. I can make that change, and I will do a close, and we'll save the project. And then when we go back out to Hub, what we're going to find is that project name has also been updated over in Hub as well. So here it is now, Judah's home project instead of Judah's home residence. So there's connections and stuff, again, between those projects, allowing you to keep things synchronized as you work through them. Now, what I haven't noted as much, and I'm going to take a pause here, just come back to my PowerPoint slide here for a moment. As the project goes through different phases, it goes through what we would call different statuses. When you first log the job in, like I did at the beginning there, it gets that login status, and as you start it, it goes to in progress. From there, you can send that job to sales review. So if you had a salesperson that was attached to it, then you can send it out to them, and that would be for the purpose of them reviewing the job and deciding, yeah, that's what I wanted. Thank you for getting that done for me. Or no, that isn't quite right. We were supposed to have Trex decking at the back, not the cedar that was on the plan. And they can request revisions if that's needed. There's a revision stage. And then once revisions are addressed, or if they just didn't need to be done, then we have the completed stage. So you have all of those statuses that a job can go through. So in this case here, my Judah's home project, if I'm done with it, since I have a salesperson, I can send it to sales review. So that's been sent out there for him, and he's been notified about that. And so now I'm going to take a pause from our desktop view, and I'm going to pull over a view of the phone app. So let's see if I can do this, right? I'm going to stop that share there for a moment. And I'm going to come over here to my screen. Okay, so here we go. We've got so here's my view of my phone app. And you can see that it has a lot of similarities to what we've already been seeing over in the desktop world. So you can see this is basically our project list, and then as I touch on them, I can be able to see the different things that are going on. Now here down near the bottom, I can see in sales review, I've got Judah's home project since it was assigned to me. So since it's in a sales review, that's an indication that I've got something to look at. So I can touch that and I can open it, and I can take a look at what's going on. Now I could come to the Files tab. Here are the different files. I could touch on those and open them and view them within the app. I could also even come to the chat communication section here, and I could type a message. Once I've reviewed them, and if I decided that, like I mentioned, maybe there was a problem with the deck out back, I forgot to tell the guy before that we needed Trex, what I could do is I can choose to request revisions. And just right here in the app, I can say, hey, I need Trex at the back deck. So I need, oops, see if I can't spell right. Or maybe it was an autocorrect problem. I need Trex at the back deck, and I can click submit. And so now what happens, let's come back out to our project view here on this phone app. You can see that Judah's home project is now marked as being in revisions. And if you are the person assigned to this project, you probably just got an email that told you that, hey, the job that you thought was done or that you sent a sales review, hey, it was been sent back to revision, so you better go check it out. So it's just a reminder to them about that. One thing more over here on the phone app side that I'll point out is you can see that I have a bunch of jobs that have red indicators by them over on the left-hand side. Those are indicators of new communications that are on them that I haven't looked at yet. So if I touch on Karen's Kitchen project, I can go over to the chat tab, and so here's some more communication that I hadn't necessarily seen yet. And so that's there for me to review. So the idea with the phone app then is you can give that, and that's free of charge. It doesn't cost you any extra to get it. It's just available as a companion to this tool. So any of your salespeople, external contacts, and so on that you wanted to just have a view into what's going on with Hub, they can get it for free, put it on their phone, and they have access to that to make use of. I'm going to bounce back over here now to the desktop as we're starting to wind down here to the end. Let's see here if I can't get this. There we go. Should be seeing my screen again there. I'm going to pop up my slide one more time here. Just as kind of run down to the end here, we've talked about different people that you can invite to be a part of your group or part of your team. And so there we have 5 different roles that we've allowed you to make use of, because we understand that different people have different roles and therefore should have different even visibilities and so on. So the primary role that's out there that you can invite somebody to be a part of your team is an estimator. Generally speaking, this is kind of like the core user. He can do most everything there. He has visibility to all the jobs and things like that. So it's a very common role for your inside estimators to be using. Then you also have the manager, who pretty much has visibility to everything, but since the manager in this sense would be for somebody who he isn't really an estimator, you're really just trying to keep him abreast of everything that's going on. He must just be able to see jobs, be aware of projects. So he's not going to appear in the list of people to assign, so you're not going to be able to assign him to a job or assign him as a salesperson. He could just be put in as an additional contact, but he has visibility and general control over things. Then we have the estimator limited. So this would be for the guy who he's maybe a very new estimator to you, maybe he's a very green estimator, and you just don't want him necessarily getting into the system and messing everything up just because he's just not familiar. So all this person's going to see is the projects that have been assigned to them. They still have a lot of control over those projects, obviously, because they need to be, but their visibility is limited in the things that they can see and actually work on. Then you have a salesperson. Now, a salesperson, as in some organizations, would be important that one salesperson isn't really necessarily aware of what the other salesperson's projects are. So salespeople can only see projects that are assigned to them as a salesperson. They can't log in and create projects on their own. As a side note, we are working on a feature that, or we will be working on a feature that allows you for a salesperson to send a job in, basically to request a job. So then that process kind of becomes all inclusive within Hub, where you can request the job and have it delivered back to you all within the same system if you're a salesperson. So salespeople, they have access to their jobs, but limited capabilities of what they can actually do. Finally, we have the external contact. And they only see what's assigned to them, and they can only be set as an additional contact. So the idea here, again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, was somebody who they're not an employee of your company, they're a customer, but you do so much work with them that you would want to give them some kind of regular visibility into their projects and when they can expect them back, and a way to deliver their output files right back to them right within the phone app. So you could set them up as an external contact. Again, very limited, so you don't have to be concerned that they can see into everything else that you're doing as a company. They just see the stuff that you assign to them, but it can be a handy way to get those things back. And then finally, just as a side, the estimator and the manager, they can be given admin rights to do those super special things that you might want to be able to manage your account with. Over here on the right-hand corner, there's the account screen, which you can use to manage your account. This will be some of the stuff would be more like what you might do with your admin site or admin privileges, teams, and you can invite more users up here in the upper left-hand corner to be a part of your team. If you've started to use Hub, or maybe you've seen it but you hadn't really dived into it yet, I'm going to just want to point out one area right here. There's this online help. Now, first of all, always as with always with all your support, feel free to call us anytime, and we're happy to answer any questions. But I also want to point out there is the online help section, and this is going to pull up just a new browser window like you'd expect, and there's several videos and things that are available here, also under training videos, Hub training videos, and so on. So there's other things that you can use to get yourself familiar with the system. And so then finally, as we kind of come down to the end here, I'm going to launch another poll here. So after seeing what you did today, we're just kind of curious from our end, is this a tool that you would consider using in the future? Was it yes, there's some good potential here, no, it's not a fit for us, or not sure yet if it will do what I needed to do, but be interested in knowing what some of your feedback is. So I'll let you just finish filling out those answers. And again, if you have any questions about how it works, or maybe you just need a little bit of help getting started, then feel free to do that. One final note that I'll make here, that I'm more just mentioning it just in case this comes up for your team. We had to come up with some feedback from another team, and that is, you have your estimators who obviously use Hub and PrebuiltML or Estima, as the case may be for you. So you have that more core guy. And then you have the phone app, which is available for all your other users. But you may have some users who say, well, no, I'm not an MLX user or an Estima user. I don't need to do that stuff. I'm more just a sales guy, but I want to be able to use this on my desktop. I want the more fuller functionality. I don't want to put this on my phone. I'm just not a phone guy, or whatever reason. We do have, as a separate offering, for a much cheaper subscription rate, you have just PrebuiltML Hub on your desktop. So you would be seeing, I'm going to end this poll now. You would be seeing, they would have access to what you're seeing on my screen right now, this whole PrebuiltML Hub app. So they could see all that, and then based on their permissions, the actions they could take would be limited if they were a salesperson or a estimator or so on. They just wouldn't have access to PrebuiltML X, to the actual estimating software. But if they need something that's just on the desktop, then that is an offering that we do have available. So feel free to get in contact with us if you have somebody in your team that's more like that, maybe a project coordinator or just a salesperson who likes his laptop, whatever that is. So thanks for taking the time to join us today. We especially like to hear your feedback. So as you get into the software and start using it, and maybe you find, well, in order for this to be effective for my team, I need it to do this. Love to hear that. We're actively wanting to build this tool out further to make it effective for your team. So thank you for taking the time today. Look forward to hearing you. Don't be a stranger. We want to hear from you. So talk to you later. Have a good afternoon.